You probably heard the term government shutdown thrown around a lot, right? It sounds dramatic, super confusing, and let's be honest, it sounds kind of weird. I mean, how can the entire US government just stop working? Well, it's not quite that simple, but it is a uniquely American political phenomenon. So what's really going on? All right, let's get into it and unpack what a shutdown is, why it keeps happening, and what it all means.
I mean, this picture says it all, doesn't it? A simple sign on a museum door tells a pretty crazy story. The government is closed. But why? It's not like the US is broke. This is a political problem, not a financial one. And it's all because of a very specific, kind of quirky set of rules.
Okay, so what actually is a shutdown? What's the legal thing that flips the switch? Well, the trigger isn't an empty bank account in the US Treasury. It's a law. The key thing to get here is that this is a legally required pause. It's not optional. It's what happens when Congress and the president can't agree on the annual funding bills, the appropriations bills that basically keep the lights on for the federal government. Basically, if they miss the deadline, boom, the legal authority to spend money just vanishing.
And this is the law that makes it all happen. It's called the Antideficiency Act. Think of it like a safety switch, a circuit breaker for government spending. This law basically says, hey, government agencies, you absolutely cannot spend a dime that Congress hasn't officially given you. So when those funding bills stall, this act is what slams on the brakes and forces most of the government to just stop.
So you'd think this has been part of American politics forever, right? Since Washington or Jefferson? Well, you'd be wrong. The kind of shutdown we see today is actually a pretty modern invention. For most of American history, this just wasn't how things worked.
Yeah, believe it or not, before 1980, when funding was late, it wasn't a total meltdown. Agencies would just kind of limp along. They'd keep the most important stuff running on a string, figuring, hey, Congress will sort this out soon. No big drama, no sudden shutdown.
So what was the big change? It all comes down to this moment right here, between 1980 and 81. The Attorney General at the time, Benjamin Civility, issued a couple of new legal opinions. And he basically said, nope, that old Antideficiency Act is super strict. If there's no money approved, everything non-essential has to shut down, period. And just like that, a simple funding delay was transformed into the massive political showdown we know today.
Okay, so this isn't just some abstract political fight in D.C. It has a huge ripple effect that hits real people, real families, all across the country. Let's break down what that actually looks like.
Now, it's important to know a shutdown doesn't mean the entire government just vanishes. Some things have to keep going, no matter what. We're talking things that protect life and property like national security, air traffic control. Social security checks still go out. But then you've got everything else. National parks, closed. Museums, locked up. Trying to get a new business permit? You're gonna have to wait.
And this is where you really see the human cost. Hundreds of thousands of federal workers are furloughed, which is just a fancy word for being sent home without a paycheck. And get this, those accepted or essential workers, the air traffic controllers, the TSA agents, they still have to show up to work. They just don't get paid until it's all over. And that financial stress, it doesn't just stop with them. It hits government contractors, small businesses, the whole ecosystem.
And the hit to the national economy? It's huge. Just look at that last bar there. That's the big one from 2018-2019. It lasted 35 days, the longest ever. We're talking about an estimated $18 billion in delayed spending, and some of that money, billions of it, was just gone forever. It permanently damaged the economy.
And just to put a finer point on it, the Congressional Budget Office, they're the official nonpartisan scorekeepers, they estimated that a potential shutdown in fiscal year 2025 could cost the U.S. economy somewhere between $7 and $14 billion. That is an insane price tag for political disagreement.
Which, brings us to the big question. If they're so expensive and so disruptive, why on earth do we keep doing this? Well, the answer is baked right into the American system of government.
And that's what's so weird about it, right? Why does this happen in the US, but you almost never hear about it in other big, advanced countries? Most of them have systems in place, like automatic funding, to stop this exact kind of thing from happening. So what's our deal?
Well, it really comes down to this perfect storm, this recipe for shutdowns. You need three main ingredients. First, you've got the separation of powers. Congress holds the money. The president has to sign off. Second, we have to go through this whole funding debate every single year. And then the secret sauce, the kicker, is that super strict interpretation of the law we talked about from 1980. You put those three things together, and you've got the perfect conditions for political gridlock to trigger a total meltdown.
So how do we get out of one? On paper, it's pretty simple.
Congress has to pass the funding bills. Or, what usually happens, they kick the can down the road with a temporary patch called a continuing resolution or a CR. The president signs it, and bam, the lights go back on.
So if there's one thing you take away from all of this, let it be this. A government shutdown is not about the country running out of money. The money is there. It's about losing the legal permission to spend the money we already have. It's totally a self-inflicted wound.
Which really leaves us with this one big nagging question. In a political system that's supposed to be all about debate and compromise, is the modern shutdown just a bug, a total system failure, or has it actually become a feature, a twisted but powerful tool used in these high-stakes political fights? And that's really the question at the heart of how American government works or doesn't work today.